In episode 100 of the PR Maven podcast, we celebrate our first 100 episodes with highlights from the top 10 episodes from the first 100 episodes of the PR Maven podcast. We are recording this episode during COVID-19, and it gives me a chance to reflect on the pandemic and encourage you and all members of the PR Maven Nation to stay healthy and strong, and most of all, stay connected with those people that you love and care about. I encourage you to think about how your personal connections add up to who you are and build your brand and your network, which is what I talked about in my new book, Grow Your Audience, Grow Your Brand. Enjoy the episode. Hello, PR Maven Nation. Welcome to the PR Maven Podcast, episode number, wait for it, 100. Presented by Marshall Communications, creator of the Marshall Plan's 65-step strategic process. For those of you new to the show, I'm your host, Nancy Marshall, the PR Maven and CEO of Marshall Communications. And for those of you who have been listening all along, I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart. This podcast provides my unique perspective on the world of public relations and personal branding, including actionable takeaways that you can implement into your business right away. I want to emphasize the importance of enhancing traditional relationship building with all the technology available to us today. And every week, the podcast features interviews with successful industry leaders, top executives, and media personalities from around the globe. As we're celebrating our 100th episode today, we want to share with you some of the best clips from our guests, and we have compiled a top 10 list. So we're going to get started right now with our countdown. In 10th place was episode number 2. That was the second PR Maven podcast that we ever did, and that was with Lori Hybe, president and owner of Keystone Click. The clip that we're going to share is all about how video brings more authenticity to your audience, whereas content such as blog posts can more obviously be perfected. So we're going to listen to a clip from Lori now.
The two major shifts that, one of which we are doing right now is leveraging video and audio technology, podcasting, creating video. One, they're so much fun to do, and it's more real and authentic, and they do generate results. People like authenticity. When someone's crafting a blog post and you're trying to get the perfect message, and you tweak and you edit and you make all these, you want it to sound perfectly, and then you publish it, and it sounds like it was tweaked and edited to have that perfect message, but a video or a podcast, there's a genuine feeling that comes with that. And I think it's resonating more today than it ever has been.
Okay. And number 9 was episode number 18 with Mackenzie Riley Young, Assistant Director of Media Relations at Thomas College in Waterville, Maine. And Mackenzie talked about how building a relationship with a local reporter led to Thomas College being featured on the Today Show.
My proudest moment was this past May when I got the Sunday Today Show, a student on that show. That was a huge deal. They came to campus, and it started out with a pitch to Rob Nesbitt from Channel 6's 207. And he and I have created a relationship. I've figured out what kind of pitches he likes, what kind of stories he likes, and I knew he would be interested in this Carlos story, and he did an incredible job, as he always does. And the Sunday Today Show saw that great story and wanted to pick it up. And it didn't stop there. I had to convince them to come. I had to convince the family to be interviewed, and even after they came, to get them to actually publish it. So that just showed this job takes a lot of hard work. It doesn't stop just when you get the pitch. And so I'm very proud of getting that Thomas College on the Sunday Today Show.
And now in 8th place was episode number 3 with Craig Marshall, who happens to be my son. And it's funny that he was episode 3 because 3 has always been his favorite number. And he was at the time executive director of sales and marketing for the World Pro Ski Tour. What Craig talked about was how social media can be used to organically build an audience or gain followers from industry influencers, like attracting followers from the skiers' own social media networks.
Just sharing with them, here are the most important sponsors on social media. Here's the hashtags that we need to plug. Here's who we need to tag in our posts. And it's been a huge opportunity for us because certainly growing a social media following without a huge budget for content production or boosting posts is a big challenge. But having a group of partners like the athletes, who many of them have more followers than we do by 3 or 4 times, it is amazing. I mean, that's the biggest asset that you can have. It's so they're benefiting obviously by growing the tour and providing more opportunities for themselves to compete and make more money. But they understand, because they're so tech savvy, the right ways to do it and how they can help us.
And now in 7th place was episode number 15 with Rich Brooks, president of Flight New Media. And what Rich talked about was how you can keep generating excitement around content by sharing content other people produced, speaking at other people's events, and getting to know their fans and followers so they will become your fans and followers.
I believe in the idea of a virtuous circle. So you do one thing and then you market it somewhere else and you market it somewhere else. So if I'm doing something, I'm going to help share that content that somebody else created. I'm going to continue to pay it forward. That kind of work continues to build on itself. And when you create something either by yourself or with somebody else, you can often turn that into even something more. So I was listening to the episode you did with Becky McKinnell, who I'm a huge fan of. And just listening to how purposeful she was with that PR that it sounded like you worked with her on, was really eye-opening in terms of like, okay, well, you get this print based on something that you've done. You get the, an article in print, but then you turn around and you turn that into social media. And then, of course, that social media can build on itself because people see it, and all of a sudden you're being called on to be, written about in another article and something like that. So I think it's one of these things that you keep on building upon. A book leads to a podcast, leads to a speaking engagement, leads to social media, leads to print, leads to another book. That's, I think, how you start to build your castle.
And now in 6th place, episode number 10 with Bill Green, who was then a reporter, anchor, and executive producer at News Center, Maine. He has since retired. But the clip that we're going to share is about how working hard will be valuable to your career, whether it is building your network or forming relationships with experts that make finding a credible source easier.
I'd say go for it. Go after it.
I'm so glad you brought that up, because when I talk to people about personal branding, I always say you want to be the one electrician or the one plumber or the one whatever that the news media thinks of when they need somebody to comment on a certain situation.
Exactly. And you've got to be there. You got to be there quick. 10 o'clock in the morning, we call somebody. We need them by 12 or 1.
Right.
We don't need them that night at 6.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So you have to be available, and you have to call people back quickly too. So.
And the other thing is, young people, like I've got not very many, 4,500 Twitter followers or something like that, a couple thousand on Instagram perhaps. When they leave our station and go to a bigger market or whatever, they take those with them. We don't own those accounts. So that's becoming your own little TV station, magazine, newspaper station, and you're taking it with you. If you're 22 years old today, you're building that for a lifetime.
We'll continue our conversation shortly, but first I want to share that I've published my new book called Grow Your Audience, Grow Your Brand, and it's available on Amazon.com in print and Kindle, and will soon be available in Audible also. And it's all about what we talk about on the podcast, which is how you grow a network by by networking with people, both in person and online, in order to grow your brand, whether it's a personal brand or an organizational brand. So I hope you'll check that out. Grow your audience, grow your brand on Amazon.com. And now we're going to give a copy of the book and a Things to Do pad giveaway. So all you need to do is go to prmaven.com/giveaway, and you could be our next winner of my new book and our famous Things to Do Today pad. We're going to take a quick commercial break for the Marshall Plan, and we'll be right back with Anna Mcdermott.
Hey PR Maven Nation, Greg here from Marshall Communications. I want to talk about your marketing strategy. Some days, do you feel like you're a hamster running in a wheel? Perhaps you're just running the same ad in the same publication because that's the way you've always done it. Or do you not even know how many media impressions you got from that news story last month? Do you feel like sometimes you're doing a lot of work but not seeing the results? Well, the good news is you're not a hamster. And if you're feeling like your marketing plan could be better, we would love to help. At Marshall Communications, we've worked with a wide range of businesses and organizations to create a customized marketing strategy known as the Marshall Plan. During a period of 3 months, we meet with you and your top stakeholders to learn about your world, what keeps you up at night, and best of all, the ways we can work together to combine your knowledge and our marketing and public relations experience to avoid the feeling of spinning in a wheel, and create a 3-year marketing plan that provides you with a vision for success. The Marshall Plan is fully customized and uses our 65 proprietary steps and leads to a playbook for your success. And trust me, it feels so much better than running around in a wheel. If you think your business or organization would be a candidate for a Marshall Plan, you can take our Marshall Plan quiz to find out. Visit marshallpr.com/quiz. And if you'd like to schedule a free consultation about a Marshall Plan, visit marshallpr.com/consult or call us at 207-623-4177. Be sure to mention the code PODCAST for your free gift. Hi, Nancy. It's Greg. The team here at Marshall Communications is proud of what you've been able to accomplish with your first 100 episodes. Congratulations on the accomplishment. It's amazing to think about how far we've come in the first 100 episodes. And I know you've got a lot more in store. You've had some great guests, and I know I'm learning a lot, and I'm sure PR Maven Nation is as well. So from all of us at Marshall Communications, you'll hear from the team here. We really are proud of what you've been able to accomplish, and here's to another 100.
Hey, Nancy, it's Charlene. Congratulations on your 100th podcast episode. Nice work, and I'm looking forward to the next 100.
Hey, Nancy, this is Whitney. I wanted to call and congratulate you on 100 podcast episodes. Nice work, and here's to many more.
Hi, Nancy. This is Emma. I wanted to congratulate you on your 100th episode. I have learned so much from listening to your podcast and enjoyed the opportunity to work on helping you produce it. I can't wait to listen to the next 100 and many more.
Hi, Nancy. I just wanted to congratulate you on your 100th episode. That is awesome. You're such a mover and a shaker and an inspiring energy to be around. I can't wait to continue to be a loyal listener, and congratulations to getting to 100 episodes. That's awesome.
It's Julie. Congratulations, Nancy, on your 100th podcast episode. Here's to 100 more.
Welcome back, and today we're celebrating the 100th episode of the PR Maven Podcast by taking a look back at the top 10 most popular episodes. I'm going to dive right back in with number 5, which was actually episode number 13, featuring Anna Mcdermott, who is a content creator with my agency, Marshall Communications. And what the clip is about is how likes and comments on social media posts are important, but how shares truly signify the best content because people will want to share it with their own network.
you always want, your post to get likes and comments and stuff. But a really big one is when people share the content, when your content is so like eye-catching, or, it's this great story or something, and then they want to share it with people, because that's where I think the strongest connections are built on social media platforms, is when you have content that gets spread virally. Because everybody wants to be the viral sensation, and if you have something that maybe it's just a recipe that you're sharing, but if people are sharing it, they're talking about you, and that is power.
And now in fourth place was episode number 9, How to Build Your Personal Brand and Network Online. And this was actually a solo cast that I did about how you need to be memorable when you meet people in order to advance your own career and build your own network and your personal brand. When you apply for a job, or even when you have a job and you want to be considered for a promotion, if you are remarkable in some way, you're going to be more likely to be promoted or hired, because people will remember you. You want to be memorable. I've always tried to be memorable because I'm very enthusiastic. Whatever I do, I try to do it with enthusiasm. Now, you may be memorable for something else. For example, Greg, he just stepped away to do something, but he is memorable because he's very attentive to all the details. And any job he undertakes, you can be sure that he's going to check off everything on the checklist. So just think about how you want to be remembered by people, and make sure that you have that information in your LinkedIn, and maybe even in your Twitter. If you have a Twitter profile, you can have a little biographical blurb there, and you can say, I am known for my attention to detail, or my infectious laugh, or my boundless enthusiasm. So think about how you want to be remembered. And in third place was episode number 8 with my friend Kate Payne, who is founder and president of the company called Standing Out Online. And this clip is about how to localize a national trend and attach media attention by sharing your perspective or your client's perspective on the trend.
From a PR standpoint and from a social media marketing strategy standpoint, regardless of the platform, but this does work especially well on LinkedIn, is whenever there's a national trend going on, okay, so your industry, meaning your listeners' industry, whatever your industry or space that you are in, take a look at what's going on nationally in that trend, and then localize it to what it is that you do, so that you could pitch a reporter, and you could put out your content that is taking that national trend and saying, but my view, or in my state, or in my world, this is how it's affecting me, or this is how I'm handling it. So you're taking the national trend and you're localizing it and making it personal and sort of customized. That's a great way to be able to pitch PR people, especially in our local smaller markets. Frankly, any market, but it does work well in the smaller markets especially.
And in second place overall was episode number 60, and it was actually a live podcast from my 1-year anniversary party with Lieutenant Tim Cotton of the Bangor Police Department. And what this clip is about is how Tim came to manage the Bangor Police Department's Facebook pages and the techniques he used to create more engagement with the followers of the page.
The bottom line was I didn't really want the job to begin with, but it came with the job that I took as public information officer. So after we took over, and one of the jobs of the public information officer is to obviously update the Facebook page. So I started doing it, and I thought it was boring, and it was. And so I talked to the police chief, and he acquiesced that I could do what I wanted as long as I didn't talk about politics or religion, and that was an obvious, faux pas. So I just started writing it in stream of consciousness and doing what I wanted to do, and writing posts that were extremely long with a lot of commas, no pictures, and it took off. It took off immediately. I just think we came in at a time when police were not well loved. Not that we're well loved today, don't get me wrong, but maybe it's better than it was in 2014. So we just tried to tell our story and take the narrative back and do it ourselves instead of letting the media do it. And so we did, and that's what we did. So it took off. It immediately started working, and I was seeing huge increases weekly, 1,000, 2,000 more likes a week, on the page. And then NPR picked us up for Morning Edition on the 4th of July because I had written something completely stupid, but they liked it, and they asked me to read it to patriotic music for Morning Edition. I said, yeah, whatever you want. So we did that, and that really got the ball rolling. NPR kind of took us from 10,000 to 20,000 likes in the course of maybe a week and a half.
And in number 1 position overall for all of my 100 podcast episodes so far was episode number 36 with Lieutenant Tim Cotton of the Bangor Police Department. And he talked about how the Duck of Justice became the Bangor Police Department's mascot.
The duck was in the district attorney's office in Bangor, and it was a stuffed wood duck. And it was there the first day I went to the DA's office as a police officer, and there was a lady there named Christine.
Hang on just a second.
Yeah.
A stuffed wood duck, not a stuffed wooden duck.
Right, it's not a wooden duck.
A wood duck is a species of duck.
That's correct.
Okay.
American wood duck.
Okay, so I bet a lot of people, when you say that,
don't say,
think,
yeah,
oh, yeah, how a wooden duck stuff. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, this was a taxidermied American wood duck.
Okay, gotcha.
So it was sitting up on a shelf, and it was it was already beat up. It'd been there a few years, and I said to the Christine, who's still there, she's the chief administrator of the office now, and I said, why do you have the wood duck up there? And she said, oh, it was shot in a hunting thing, and the warden service, we convicted the individuals who shot the duck, and the warden service had it stuffed and gave it to us as a gift. And so there's basically the duck is a victim of a crime. And I said, if you ever get rid of it, let me know. And she's like, oh, I would love to get rid of it. It stares at us all day from the shelf, So that took about 20 years later, actually more than that, and just about 20 years later, the DA's office was moving, and there's a German girl named Andrea White, nice, lovely girl, and she's German. And when I say German, I say that because her accent is so bold, and she really enunciates things. And she be ha ha. A lot of the K's and the X's and the C's sounded different. So she was laughing. We always laughed, and she's actually married to a state police officer. So anyway, she was throwing it away because she'd had it with the duck. And she's, I hate that duck. I hate that damn duck. And she threw it in the trash can. And I said, well, now it's a freebie because this is, I don't need a warrant to take something out of the garbage. I said, I'll take it right now. So I took the duck and I brought it back to my cubicle at the station. I was still a detective. And I sat it on a cabinet in my cubicle. And when people came in, and it was damaged and it kind of broken and bent over. And it really looked a mess. And people would always say, well, why do you have that in here? I said, well, you can't lie. It's a duck of truth. You can't lie in front of the duck. And it would break the ice, in conversations with some people that had done bad things. And so they'd laugh, we'd laugh, and then we'd talk, and maybe they'd tell me more, and maybe not. But in the end, they'd always say, I like your duck, And so when I moved to PIO, or Public Information Officer, I took it with me because I'd become part of the whole shtick. It was always a joke. And so we stuck it in a couple of pictures. I do a new officer interview thing when we get new officers. And I wrote the questions and I answer the questions. I have them give me their answer, and then I kind of tune it up so it's a little more snarky between us. And it's kind of fun. And I get their approval of how I wrote it usually. And it was just introduced the people that came on. And so one day, I think it was Jimmy Burns, who now works for me as a detective. I took the duck. I said, hey, just when I take a picture for the page, just hold the duck. And we won't say anything about the duck. So we slid it. I think we slid the beak into the picture, and then the head, and another picture, and then sorry about that. And sooner or later, we had them holding the duck when they came in, and I wouldn't. People started asking questions. What's up with that duck in the picture? And I wouldn't say anything because sometimes unspoken is much more powerful than saying it. And I say, I don't know what you're talking about, and ignore it. And it became kind of humorous. And now people were getting angry that I wouldn't talk about why there's a duck in the pictures. And I was getting notes and phone calls. Why do you stick a duck in there? No, what duck? That we did that. So finally, I decided, hey, well, let's introduce it as the Duck of Justice. It's funny. It was a play of the words for the Department of Justice for me, DOJ. And I said, that would be kind of funny. We'll call it the DOJ. And then every time they search DOJ on the internet, they'll see the Duck of Justice. And it does. If you search DOJ, you might find the Department of Justice. But the duck will come in there. And I said, that's a great way to go. I don't need I don't need any help to get this.
Google thinks you're just as important at the Department of Justice.
That's right. So then people wanted to see and meet the duck. So for a few years, we would let them hold it down in the lobby. We'd take the duck down. They could get their picture. Anything on the internet.
It's probably getting more tattered than ever.
It was destroyed, really. So we finally had it rebuilt a year and a half ago by a great taxidermist, world-class taxidermist from Stockton Springs. His name is Reardon. And he did it for almost gratis. And as a matter of fact, he called me in the middle of it and said, Tim, this duck is destroyed because people touching the feathers, the oil wrecks the feathers. He says, this is destroyed.
And that duck's getting pretty old now.
Yeah, he's about
he's been
well
dead
over
for a
30.
long time.
Yeah, a long time.
None of us are going to last that long.
We can't last forever.
Unfortunately.
Yes. So he said, look, I have another duck in the freezer. I'll replace it. And I said, you can't do that.
No. This is
I'd be lying. I'd be lying if I produced. So
that'd be cursed.
Crazy. So he said, okay, I'll fix it the best I can. And he did a nice work. But then he promised for his discounted rate to fix the duck, he said, you just have to put under glass. And I said, oh, that's too bad because people like to hold it and touch it. He said, yeah, you can't. I can't fix it again. It'll be destroyed. So we put it in, I always call it the upside down aquarium we found on the side of the road on Burt Street, but that's not true. It's a glass case for the duck. Because we like the main the main twist of finding stuff in the garbage because I'm a Mainer and I would take something off your curb in a heartbeat if it, whether, maybe a set of, I don't know. I think about it.
Here in Maine, instead of calling it the dump, sometimes we call it the mall.
The mall,
right?
It's a drive-through mall.
Especially the malls that have stores. Like some dumps have the lost and found.
Yeah,
you can just take something good.
And so if it's on the corner, you can take it. Kind of like the duck. The duck came to us by taking it out of the garbage. So anyway, we put it in there. It's in our museum. We have a great museum, a small museum at the station, but it's actually very nice. And it became the focal point of the museum. So more people come to our museum now to see the duck, but then when they get there, they see the museum. And they can see the history of Bangor PD, and it's well taken care of by our Explorer Post and our officer, Jimmy Hazard. It used to be run by Fred Bryan, a former retiree, and he collected just droves of tons of stuff. It's a really neat museum. And so the duck is in the museum, and you can go in.
What's the address?
240 Main Street in Bangor.
Right.
We were listed in some of the smallest police museums in the country, but it's very well done, and it's a good place to catch the history.
Yeah.
So people come to see the duck, they stay for the museum, or they come for the museum, and they get to see the duck.
It's all free.
It's absolutely free.
Oh, that's awesome.
So we have... last year we had, excess of 2,000 or 3,000 visitors to come to our lobby to get a picture with this duck. And so it's just, he became his own thing,
PR Maven Nation, thank you for joining us for this roundup of all of the top 10 episodes in our 100th episode show. And if you have any questions or you'd like to share something that you'd like me to talk about or a guest you'd like me to invite, feel free to email nancy@prmaven.com. This podcast is presented by Marshall Communications, creator of the 65-Step Marshall Plan strategic process. To learn more about the Marshall Plan, visit marshallpr.com. A reminder about Alexa. If you have an Alexa device, you can say, Alexa, play the PR Maven Podcast, and you can pick today's episode or a previous episode. You can also enable the skill to receive the daily PR Maven Podcast flash briefing with tips and advice from each and every episode. Thanks again for tuning into the PR Maven Podcast. You can always learn more about how to use Alexa's features and subscribe to the podcast at prmaven.com/podcast. We appreciate you listening and encourage you to share this podcast with your friends or coworkers and let them know they can find it on their favorite podcast player. Remember to go out and keep building those relationships and embracing new technology. Have a great week, PR Maven Nation.